Las Vegas, Nevada is a city that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it one anyway. Roughly 10 hours flight from London, Las Vegas, Nevada is plonked in the middle of the desert with seemingly not a huge amount around it. And for anyone who's not been, the city's broadly divided into sort of three areas. The first one, the most famous one, would be the Strip. This is where all those mega casinos are, the likes MGM, Flamingos, Bellagio, Luxor. You get the drift. The second part of Las Vegas is downtown, which is not quite what you'd usually think with the term downtown. This is where the older 1960s sort of style casinos are. It's a bit rougher, it's a bit readier, it's a bit grittier, it's a bit grimier, but it's actually a nice contrast to the strip. It's also noticeably cheaper, and you do get some independent restaurants, bars, that kind of stuff up there. So you're not all just in some massive air conditioned monolithical hotel and casino. I actually preferred downtown, to be honest. I thought it had a bit more charm to it, although it is a bit of a pain to get down to the strip. The monorail only kind of goes halfway between the strip and downtown, so you're going to have to get a taxi, and they're not particularly cheap. And the third and final part of Vegas is probably what they call the off strip. So these are things that either like quite far up the north of the strip, the sort of all the way up to the Sahara or Circus, and then off strip things like the Rio Hotel. These hotels are reasonably isolated. That you kind of rely on everything within that one hotel for eating and drinking. Otherwise, you're generally going to be a 10-15 minute walk, if not longer, to a bit more variety. But I would always go downtown if I had the choice of going back. Now, Las Vegas is a very vibrant city with a specific reputation, and there's so much to do. I'm not going to go into a detailed breakdown. If you want to go for high end dining, there's plenty of amazing restaurants. If you want to go to the Mobster Museum or the old signs, the old Las Vegas sign graveyard, that's a great highlight. Of course, you have all the musicians and their residencies, all the singers. You have fantastic shows there. The magicians. We saw David Copperfield and Penn and Teller. That's worth a visit because seeing it live is just mind blowing. But I'll start with a bonus tip, and that would be to do a city tour. It may sound a little bit drab, but these city tours are fantastic because it can be a little bit difficult to negotiate around Vegas. The traffic's bad and driving will be a bit of a headache. But the tours, they go around all the major casinos. You see some really interesting sights. You get some great tips. The guides know their history, they know the city, they know the best places to go. So that way, you get it all done in a day, and then you can sort of pick and mix in terms of where you want to go afterwards. But the key here is day trips. So here are three really fun day trips to do from Las Vegas. Starting with number one, it's the big one, of course. It literally is the Grand Canyon. First things first, there are lots of trips to the Grand Canyon from Vegas with many different permutations, many different options, which means you're going to have to do some research because the option you choose really depends on the sort of experience you're after. For us, we wanted as much time as possible, so we opted for the flight there. This is considerably more expensive than the bus. You also don't get a stop at Hoover Dam. You get to fly over it and get a nice view of it, but you don't get the stop at the Hoover Dam. But we decided, okay, we're going to the Grand Canyon. We want to do as much as we can. So we went for the option where you'd have, first of all, the bus tour around the rim. We then had the helicopter flight down, which was my first experience in a helicopter. The combination of seeing it up top and then actually descending in the helicopter was a great way to get a different perspective. We then had a little cruise along the Colorado River before flying back up again. That was fun. The door kind of came a little bit loose, but we managed to get up in one piece. But as you can see from the pictures, the views were fantastic. It was such a good way to see different aspects of the canyon. Yeah, so it takes a bit of time to scroll through all the various options, but have a look at what you want to do. There's, for example, you can do the stop at Hoover Dam if you wish. There's the skywalk that's there. You can do the cruise, Horseshoe Bend, kayaking. So have a look at what the best options are for you and choose accordingly. But be aware, anything involving an aeroplane or indeed a helicopter is going to get very expensive. ranging from the hundreds perhaps into the thousands, especially if you're going to do a private tour. If you're on a budget, then the road option is the best. You're going to find trips out there for well under £100. That's a great option if you are a little bit strapped for cash after losing a lot of money in the casino the night before. Okay, trip number two. The Grand Canyon was the obvious one to pick, so this one's a little bit more low key, but kind of easy to overlook, and that's Red Rock Canyon, which is to the west of Las Vegas. This isn't really a day trip, it's a half a day trip, but it's a good option to get out from the city to look a little bit of nature and have some great scenery. They drive you around the canyon, drop you off at a few different spots for some good photo opportunities. And it's surprising actually that you don't have to go that far into the desert to find some pretty fantastic spots to visit, especially as this one has a healthy variety of fun things to look at. I do always like the tortoise crossing sign. That's one of my favorites. But even the lake and the ranch and just the general views of the mountains and the hills and of course the cacti as well. So if you've got a spare morning or afternoon, this is a good and cost-effective option for you. That is also not going to eat into a huge amount of time. So, my third and final recommendation today is a day trip and a long day trip, believe me, to Utah. The first stop is Zion National Park. This is just a really amazing national park. The dramatic landscapes. We went during the winter, so having the snow capped and the ice really sort of intensified the natural beauty of the place. The tour then moves on to Bryce Canyon National Park, which is another stunning vista when you get there. The crimson, I don't know what they're called, spire rock thingies, but basically it is an amphitheatre, and you get such a great view from the very top. Again, with the winter weather, it made a good contrast between the crimson of the rock and the white of the snow. Now, this one's was probably the longest tour I'm gonna say we've ever been on in terms of a day tour. I think pickup was 5:30, 6 o'clock. We were the first ones we picked up. They did bring you breakfast and lunch and water, and all that was taken care of. But from memory, I want to say it's at least 4 hour drive. So you do spend more time on the road than you do perhaps actually seeing the sights. But it is worth it, especially if, like us, you don't really drive and you can only really afford to do it in a day. Of course, if you had an overnight stay, then I imagine being able to sort of trek through the national park and see a bit more of it would be great. But this was a whistle stop tour that I would recommend if you're a bit tight on time and just want to see the highlights of Utah, or at least two of the highlights of Utah. Anyway, so those are a few things you can do in Las Vegas if you want to get out and about and not just stay drinking, gambling, and doing general debauchery, which is also highly recommended. Thank you very much, and see you next time.